The Lord of the Rings, the card game, is the long-awaited 1 to 4 player game from Fantasy Flight Games. It's also the first cooperative card game in their LCG line. Just in case you're not familiar with what an LCG game is exactly, I'll try to enlighten you. An LCG is what Fantasy Flight calls a living card game. Now, a living card game is a game that is constantly changing or alive. LCGs are updated constantly with new cards every month, so it never becomes a finished game. In the Lord of the Rings, the card game, you'll play as various heroes from the Lord of the Ring books. You won't find a movie license here. And you won't be playing any of the more familiar stories you may recall covered in other media. You'll be using bits and pieces of the Lord of the Rings books arranged in various original scenarios that take place before Frodo's perilous journey to destroy the One Ring. Everything comes in a big red box with beautiful artwork. Inside the box, you get tokens that represent resources, ones that represent damage, progress, as well as 2 cool-looking dials called threat trackers. Now, the meat of the game is the cards, of course, and you'll get plenty of them. There are over 200 cards included in the core set, so you can start questing right away. Now, 4 starter decks are included, so even if you don't enjoy the deck building aspect of card games, you won't have to mess with any of them if you choose not to. To set up a game, you choose a deck, set up your chosen heroes, adjust the threat tracker, choose a quest, of which there are 3 included. You follow the quest directions as to which cards will be in the encounter deck, which is the deck that plays against you. And then you make sure all players have access to all the little tokens and such. Now, the gameplay is 7 phases deep, so to avoid boring you to death, I'll quickly go through all the phases bullet point style. Okay, phase 1, your resource phase. That's when you give each of your heroes 1 resource token. Phase 2 is called planning, and that's when you use your resource tokens to pay for new cards. Phase 3 is quest, and this is where you exhaust, or kind of like tapping in Magic. You tap your heroes and allies to use them to acquire progress tokens to place on the current quest. Phase 4 is called travel, and if you have any location cards in the staging area, which is where you lay your encounter cards, they can be moved next to the main quest card. Phase 5 is called encounter, and this is when you check and see if you have to move any enemies from the staging area to directly in front of you. Stage 6, or phase 6, is called combat, and in combat you have your enemies are going to strike first, and you process that damage first, and then you get to strike. So that's just kind of quickly how it goes. Stage 7 is refresh, which is basically you're going to untap or refresh your heroes and allies. You increase your threat level, usually by 1, and then if you're playing multiplayer, you pass the first player marker clockwise. So you win if you complete the quest by putting the appropriate amount of progress tokens on all the quest cards. Now, you can lose by getting all your heroes killed or by having a threat level of 50. Now, technically, you can still win if you're playing multiplayer and some of the players lose, they just get eliminated. And I guess I assume they did this for tournament reasons, because as far as I know, most co-op games, if one player dies, the whole team loses. I don't know, it's not really fun sitting there watching someone extend the game by themselves, so you could just reshuffle and go again instead. Now, there is a scoring sheet if you like to keep track of that sort of thing, but I've not really used it, and I don't think it's necessary for casual play. So Lord of the Rings, the card game, it feels refined. It feels play tested and very statistically balanced. Fantasy Flight is one of the biggest board game companies, and it really shows with this game. As every card, token, and even the instruction manual is meticulously laid out and lavishly illustrated. And the fact that this attention was given to a game with a Lord of the Ring license really makes the geek inside just kind of squeal, you know what I mean? It's just a beautiful game. So some of my issues with the game are that the phases are a real pain to learn, and upkeep every round can be an exercise in stat therapy. Now, I've had some issues learning some other games recently that seem to favor the 7-phase theory, but man, these things were a real chore to get down and remember. Sometimes when a game has a huge budget, I imagine they keep adding things to balance it out, and that's kind of what it feels like here. Extra mechanics at the cost of simplicity. So my advice is to memorize the rules in solo play and get a player aid with just the names of the phases. But get ready for a lot of questions when you start teaching your friends. Keep in mind this only applies to learning the game. So once you have it down, that's really not going to be an issue. And I really think you should stick with it, because when you do, you're going to find a game that really recreates the partnership aspect of the Lord of the Rings story. His enemies are easier to take down with multiple allies. Questing is really only possible with multiple characters working together, and your cards can combo off each other, as well as other players' cards. Plus, this game is really fun solo, which was kind of surprising. The game mechanics are built to scale for each additional player, so it works perfectly with just one. It's a little tougher, though, but that's not such a big deal. So the final verdict is I really enjoy this game, and I'm happy I bought it. If you like questing, fighting, just the Lord of the Rings or co-ops in general, then I suggest you check it out. For a full written review that's a little more in-depth, I'll include the link on the bottom, or you can go to the Lord of the Rings, the card game page on BoardGameGeek. This video brought to you by The Card Gamer. Visit thecardgamer.com to keep up to date on the latest information and to follow The Card Gamer on Twitter. Thank you.